I've been asked more than once how I managed to stay standing. I don't have a clean answer for that. I've thought about it long enough to know that the honest version isn't flattering to anyone, including me. What I can tell you is what I remember, and what I remember doesn't arrange itself into a story with a beginning and an end. It arranges itself the way certain things do, around a single moment that everything else orbits. The moment was a laugh, not the kind that surprises you, the kind that tells you in the space of one exhaled breath that the person you are looking at has been somewhere else for a long time. We had been together for 3 years. I want to be careful here because I'm not interested in performing grief I've already processed, and I'm not interested in making her a villain in a story she'd tell differently. What I will say is that those 3 years contained real things. Dinners that lasted too long in the good way. A trip to the coast where it rained for 4 days straight and we didn't mind. Arguments that ended with both of us laughing eventually. I was not imagining a relationship. I was inside one. Or I believed I was. That belief was still intact on the evening I am describing. A Saturday in November. Her family had driven 3 hours. Mine lived 40 minutes away. The restaurant was not extravagant. My mother had suggested it. A place we'd been going to since I was young enough to need a booster seat. I had chosen it deliberately. I wanted the proposal to feel like belonging, not performance. I had the ring for 6 weeks before that night. I'd shown it to my brother. I told my father, who said very little but gripped my shoulder in a way I still think about. My mother cried, then apologized for crying, then cried again. I am telling you this because I want you to understand the weight of what was in my jacket pocket when I walked into that restaurant. It wasn't just jewelry. It was every person at that table having agreed, quietly and separately, that this was real. Dinner went easily. That's what I remember. Her mother was laughing at something my uncle said. Her younger sister was on her phone under the table in a way that everyone pretended not to notice. My father was telling a story he tells too often, but he tells it well, and the table was warm with it. She was seated across from me. I watched her through the meal, the way you watch someone you've decided to spend your life with, not constantly, but with a kind of peripheral certainty. She was there. She was present. Or she seemed to be. I waited until after the main course. I had planned it down to the minute, which in retrospect tells you something about the kind of person I was then. Someone who believed that the right timing could guarantee the right outcome. I stood up. My hands were not shaking from nerves about her answer. I want to be precise about this. I have gone back to that moment many times, and what I felt in my hands was not the trembling of someone who didn't know what was coming. It was something else, a faint physical premonition that I mistook for excitement because excitement was the only framework I had available. I said her name. I said some things I won't repeat here, not because they embarrass me, but because they belong to me and I'd like to keep them. I reached into my jacket. I opened the box. I said, "Will you marry me?" She looked at the ring. Then she laughed. I've tried to find the precise word for what that laugh was, and I've never fully succeeded. It wasn't cruel in a theatrical way. It wasn't the laugh of someone who wanted to cause damage. It was the laugh of someone who had suddenly been reminded of an inside joke, except the joke was me, and she was the only one who'd known it. She said, "Why did you take this so seriously?" 5 words. Present tense. Not "I didn't expect this," or "I'm not ready," or anything that would have suggested she had been ambushed. She said, "Why did you take this so seriously?" which meant she had understood what was happening. She had simply made a different calculation about it. I stood there with the ring box open. The table went quiet in stages. My uncle first, then my mother, then everyone else. A silence spreading outward like water. I remember looking at her father and watching his expression change, not into anger, not yet, but into the particular blankness of someone recalibrating everything they thought they knew. I closed the box. I don't know why that was the first thing I did. I sat back down. I put the box in my pocket. Someone, I think it was my brother, said her name as a question, but she was already standing. She didn't leave in a rush. That's the detail I have never been able to place properly. She gathered her things with the unhurried movement of someone whose decision had been made long before that table, long before that restaurant, possibly long before the coast trip and the 4 days of rain. She said something to her mother that I couldn't hear. Her mother looked at her with an expression I recognized later when I had more distance, as an expression of someone who was not entirely surprised. Then she walked out. Her best friend, Dara, was seated 2 chairs to my right. I had always liked Dara. She was the kind of person who asked follow-up questions when you told her something, who remembered the details you mentioned in passing 3 months later. She had been kind to me in that way, that some people are kind, not because they're performing it, but because it's genuinely their default. I didn't know, in that moment, that Dara's phone had been on the table since the entrees. I didn't know she had been recording. She told me later, months later when she finally called, that she hadn't started recording with any intention. She'd been filming a short video of the table for herself, some habit of wanting to preserve ordinary evenings. When I stood up, she had kept recording because she was moved by it. She said the moment felt significant and she wanted to remember it. When the laugh happened, she said her first instinct was to put the phone down. But something stopped her. She said, "I think I kept recording because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and some part of me needed proof that it was real." The video was 43 seconds long. It showed me standing. It showed me speaking. It showed the ring. It showed her face, then her laugh, then those 5 words. It showed me sitting back down. It showed the table's silence. Dara didn't post it. She didn't send it to anyone that night, or the next day, or for several weeks. She held it the way you hold something you don't yet know what to do with. The weeks after that Saturday were not cinematic. I went to work. I answered emails. I had a conversation with my mother that lasted 2 hours and left both of us exhausted in a way that felt, strangely, like progress. I ate poorly and slept adequately and called my brother too late at night more times than I should have. I did not contact her. This was not strategy. I want to be honest about that. It wasn't that I was waiting for the right moment or engineering silence as a form of pressure. I simply had nothing to say. The thing I had wanted to say to her, I had said in front of everyone, with a ring in an open box. That had been declined in a way that closed a door so completely I couldn't find the frame. She contacted me once, 11 days later. A text message. It said she was sorry I'd been hurt, but that she thought I had been more invested in the idea of the relationship than in her specifically. She said she hoped I'd understand, eventually. I read it 3 times. Then I put my phone face down on the kitchen counter and made coffee. I don't know if she was right. That is a question I still carry, without any urgency to answer it. The video surfaced, if that's the right word, about 6 weeks after the proposal. Dara had shared it with her own sister, privately, because she needed to talk through what she had witnessed and felt she couldn't do it without showing someone. Her sister had watched it and said simply, "She got a new job, didn't she? Somewhere your ex's father's firm helped with?" Dara had known this. I had known this too. Her new position, a senior communications role at a mid-sized consultancy, had come through a chain of connections that included my father's business partner, a man named Gerald who had written a letter of recommendation that he told me, afterward, he had written because he considered our families connected. Gerald saw the video, not because it was sent to him maliciously. Dara's sister worked in an adjacent industry and knew Gerald professionally, and the conversation happened the way those conversations do, informally, with someone saying, "Have you seen this?" and the video passing from one phone to another in the way that true things tend to travel. Gerald called my father. My father told me about the call in the same tone he uses when he is being careful with information, measured, factual, without editorializing. Gerald had questions, he said, about the character reference he had provided. Not legal questions, not formal ones. Simply the quiet, professional reconsideration of a man who had offered his name in support of someone he now understood differently. I don't know exactly what happened after that. I know that the role she had accepted was still listed on the company's website as of February. I know that by March it was not. I don't know if those 2 facts are connected, and I have not tried to find out. What I know is that I did not engineer this. I did not send the video. I did not call Gerald. I did not make a single move in any direction that could be described as deliberate. The truth moved on its own schedule, the way it sometimes does, when enough people have witnessed something and can't locate a reason to stay quiet about it. Her mother called my mother in January. My mother mentioned it to me without detail, only saying that the call had been brief and that the woman on the other end had sounded tired in a particular way. I didn't ask for more than that. I didn't need it. I am not going to tell you I'm healed. That would be a lie dressed up in the language of resolution, and I've had enough of things that look like one thing and are secretly another. What I can tell you is that I understand something now that I didn't understand when I was standing at that table with a ring in my hands. I understand that a room full of people can witness something true and feel, individually, that they are the only one who saw it. And I understand that when those people finally find each other, when the silence breaks not with confrontation but with simple recognition, the thing that was true becomes undeniable in a way that no argument could achieve. I didn't need her to admit anything. I didn't need an apology rendered in the right words at the right time. I needed, without knowing it, for what happened to be witnessed fully by people whose understanding of it would outlast the evening. That happened, slowly, without drama. The ring is still in the box. I haven't decided what to do with it. Some mornings I think I'll have it reset into something else, a different shape for a different meaning. Some mornings I think I'll just keep it the way it is, a record of a person I was who believed that the right timing could guarantee the right outcome. He was wrong about that, but he wasn't wrong about wanting something real. I think I'll let him keep that much. It's a Tuesday as I write this. Ordinary light through an ordinary window. I have coffee. I have a meeting in an hour that I am not dreading. I had dinner last week with my brother, and we talked about other things, which felt, in its own quiet way, like a milestone. The room from that November evening still exists in my memory the way certain rooms do, not as a place of trauma, exactly, but as a place where I learned something expensive. What I learned is that dignity is not something you perform in a crisis. It's something you either have or you don't, and in that moment when I closed the ring box and sat back down without a word, I had it. I didn't know I had it then. I know now. That's enough.